It's just like it's just like a warehouse full of really old mages. It's just like
I mean, that's really what it is, and it's just like it's just me being surrounded by a bunch of old people.
So instead of it being the Department of like Ancient Magic, it's literally the Department of Ancient Magic Users. That's what it's become.
It's a state subsidized like retirement facility, and
for mages.
That actually, for mages.
Speaking of state subsidized retirement for old mages, welcome to Asians Read, our subsidized retirement for old D&D content. That was a bad segue, but
wow.
for me, that's one of my worst ones. But that's
you tried.
Welcome everyone. It's the first Saturday of the month, and it's time for some Asians Read Kara-Tur the Eastern Realms campaign setting. I'm Daniel, and I'm joined by our amazing crew of experts, members of the game design community, academics, podcasters, some just dope people. Now, on our last episode, we lost a member of our crew. Mackenzie has left to do some amazing things, and Mackenzie is now a designer at Wizards of the Coast on the D&D team, and we are just so incredibly proud of Mackenzie. Mackenzie, if you're watching, we know you're going to do dope things. That said...
When you said that we lost her, I was like, what, did we ford the river?
See, I imagine Mackenzie being Gandalf on the bridge in Moria and just being like, "Read, you fools," and just dropping it up, like, Mackenzie! And then like Jacky's pulling me away, like Boromir, and I'm like, ah! And Mackenzie's falling.
Definitely me. Hey, look at the bright side. I get to play Sean Bean, and I get to have an awesome death later. That's the best part.
Yeah.
I think like Emma's Legolas. Emma just has great Legolas energy.
Yeah, I can see that.
No one's ever told me that before, but I'll take it.
So Emma's Legolas. I'm apparently Frodo. Jacky is Boromir. Who's Michelle? Who's Michelle? I feel like Michelle's Aragorn. I think Michelle's Aragorn.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Excuse me while I just go back out with my horse in a dream sequence.
I just smolder at the camera for a bit.
Wait, are you not going to show off your fancy sword to everybody you meet across the land?
I do have this paring knife that I use to
You're not going to parry a random sword that's thrown at you just out of nowhere?
Oh.
Then my father-in-law shows up and is like, yeah, so like we made this sword. We reforged it.
We made this sword for you. You could take it if you want. Just,
Also, my daughter has the hots for you now. She's dying. So yeah, thanks.
Because of you.
Because of you.
Because of me. Also, here's an electric razor. Shave.
And now, that said, we've got our Boromir, our Aragorn, our Legolas, and our Frodo, and we have, at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring, lost our Gandalf. But we have two new members of our fellowship. Two new members, Austin and Agatha. Welcome to Asians Read Kara-Tur. Agatha, a known face and voice on Asians Represent, but Austin, a new member, somebody who is, you've been with us on our Discord community for a long time, and you were like, yo, tag me in, Daniel.
Let me into this trash fire here. I want to burn alongside you.
Yes.
That's a very merry, I feel like that's a very merry move. Like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Very mood. Oh, cute.
So
was he the one who asked about second breakfast? Because like,
that was Pippin.
Okay, that's Pippin. Okay.
But Mary is just like, oh yeah, take me with you. Like, I want to fight for the Riders of Rohan as well.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I thought it was like, take me with you, and then like, where are we going?
Also a valid question, though, in real life.
That makes sense. Austin, you can be Mary, and I'll be Pippin.
Right, sounds good. So that's the plan.
That's great, because you would rally the Ents at Isengard.
Yeah.
That's right.
Instead of second breakfast, it's like, it's time for second stream, because we also streamed yesterday.
Oh! Is that a better segue?
I don't know.
I don't think I wasn't trying to segue, but I was trying to introduce you to. So
Aw.
the audience knows about Jacky, Emma, and Michelle, but how about we introduce our two new crew members, two new members of our fellowship. Austin, let's start with you because I don't think people haven't seen you on Asians Represent before. So who are you? What do you do? And what are you about?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Austin Mackenzie, by the way. So some nice continuity here. I'm half Vietnamese, half Scottish.
We planned that. We planned that.
Yeah. So I am a game designer. I created a system kind of based on the style of like Japanese animation, a bit of superheroes, Western media called Valor. Which I basically completely self-fund through my more professional work where I do kind of supply chain sourcing, things like that. So I'm the one who's always like screaming at a movie like, how did you do that? That doesn't make any sense. You can't just make a plane. Do you know what goes into that? I promise, Daniel, I'll try to keep that to a minimum here, but it is possible that these feelings will spill over. But yeah, so I make basically, an anime tabletop D10 system and work a lot.
No, look, that's super awesome. And I hope your background kind of comes into play when we're talking about these like massive cities. How did you source all of this? Where did that come from? Like, these are all like really valid questions. And of course, Agatha, I know some people only watch our Kara-Tur stream or only watch the Kara-Tur video. So who are you?
Who am I? Hi, everyone. I'm Agatha. I am the co-founder of Asians Represent along with Daniel, our illustrious Daniel. I right now am co-host to our Friday stream with the wrap-up where we talk about whatever is relevant right now in role-playing, tabletop role-playing games, and also just all the things that is trending right now. Like we just talked about Star Wars yesterday. I learned a lot about Star Wars. And I am also co-host to the Asians Represent podcast and am on the Dungeons and Asians stream playing as a shrimp, aka myself. No. And I do cultural consultations for tabletop role-playing games. I have done sensitive reading. I do a little bit of copy editing and translating from Chinese to English specifically. That's me.
Yeah, you do a lot of dope stuff, and I'm super excited that you've joined us for this because I think you bring a wealth of experience to this group, and I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so happy that we have a full group of 6 now. That said, since you two are new, I wanted to go over our framework that we are using to approach this. We started doing something in the more recent streams for Kara-Tur, and it's that while a lot of the stuff that we're going to read is just hilarious, it is I find it genuinely funny. What we're trying to do is we're trying to kind of informally rewrite Kara-Tur, like what would we do instead? And it has slowed us down, but I think it's providing a much needed sense of direction for how people can kind of reframe Kara-Tur if they continue to want to use it. So there are 4 things that kind of underlie our Kara-Tur stream. One is that the world building on Kara-Tur is based on harmful real-world stereotypes and the reductive blending of like cultures, ethnic groups, and even time periods. 2, it depicts Asians as violent and savage. 3, Asians are seen as uncivilized and in need of saving. And 4, Asians are objects of fetishization. So those are the things we're kind of basing this entire stream on, and that's what is guiding our read through. So if you are following along, if you're listening on the podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you are watching us live on Twitch, again, first Saturday of every month, we are on page 9. Now, before we do that, I know that some of us have some news. If anybody has any news that they would like to share, let's start with that. I know, Jacky, you've got some big news that you announced at Session Zero Con.
Yeah. So at Session Zero Con, which Daniel was, I know I saw Daniel there for like a brief minute, and there were other people. There were wonderful creators there as well. But we had the wonderful pleasure at Session Zero to announce for Unbreakable Publishers, we're releasing 4 books in 2021. So we have in the first half of the year, we're gonna have 2 brand new product lines, Revolution and Pathways. They are going to be featuring non-D&D systems, so it's going to be mostly like a lot of other systems like Forge in the Dark. We have an adventure for Iron Sworn. We also have a lot of system agnostic stories in there as well, so they can fit for a wide genre of systems. So we have wonderful stories like there's one about overthrowing a rat king. There's one about traveling with looking for mystical artifacts. At least learning its origin story. And then there's a few other stories that I don't want to spoil yet, because there is a lot of great content this time around. And oh my goodness, if only you could see the art now. I just got shown more art yesterday. Oh, it's so good.
That's so sick.
But anyway, so yeah, the first 2 books of 2021 will be featuring the Revolutions feature stories about anti-colonialism, resisting oppression, overthrowing tyranny, those kinds of stories. And then Pathways is going to deal with stories about food, family, and traveling, and kind of intermixing all of those 3 elements, because it's all about the things that connect us as Asian peoples, as Asian families, as these are like the glue that holds a lot of us together. And so these are what connects us to each other and to different people. So we want to have those kinds of stories. And then in the last half of the year, we're going to have the continuation of D&D 5e content with volume 2 and 3, continuing that tradition. So we will have brand new stories for that. And I'm very happy to say that this year we have over 60 contributors between writers, artists, and editors.
Yeah, that's dope.
Solid.
I'm also one of the editors on Revolution.
Ooh.
How about the rest of you? Anybody else have any announcements? Nope.
Aside from Balikbayan, which is Balikbayan Into the Dark, that's one of the short campaigns that we have right now on the Asians Represent Twitch, and it's also going to be on YouTube. I'll be uploading it today. Finally finished rendering. So that's run by Jammy. It's a cyberpunk. It's a cyberpunk game that is very heavily inspired by Filipino folklore and history, and it is sick the way the 2 things are so tightly interwoven with each other. We're telling an Asian take on cyberpunk, and so it's both super cyberpunk and super Asian, and it's amazing. You should tune in on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
It is like a completely different cyberpunk. It's a cyberpunk I have never experienced before, so I'm super happy to just be able to watch and moderate the Twitch chat. But also, like, I'm just so happy that like you're learning new skills and you're doing the production stuff. Like, I'm so proud of you.
Finally.
Hey, look, you know, we all learn at different rates, and like I'm happy that you are going and putting content on the Asians Represent Twitch and YouTube that you're passionate about. Like, I think that's dope. I've got one announcement. You might have already seen it, but I am one of the contributing designers to the officially licensed Avatar: The Last Airbender RPG.
Woohoo!
Yeah, you know, I'm super excited to be a part of that. When Mendez called me and he was like, "Yo, so we're doing a thing. You want in?" And I'm like, "What's this thing?"
That sounds like Mendez.
Yeah. And it's like, we're doing this thing. It's Avatar, and I've been asked to assemble a team, an Asian Avengers of Design. He didn't say Asian Avengers of Design. I'm just inserting dialogue there. But I was like,
It's certainly implied by the sound of it.
Certainly implied, and I was like, "You son of a bitch, I'm in." And so it's super cool. I think what I'm most excited about is that, you know, a group of Asian designers is getting to work on this. Mm-hmm. I'm super excited because I feel like if we weren't on this, I feel like a bunch of like non-Asian people would be doing this, and I feel like this is a good opportunity for us to kind of fix the little things that are in Avatar. But yeah, super excited to be a part of that project. But yeah, now that we got news and now that Michelle's cat had made an appearance on stream, I love it. Let's get into it. We are on page 9, The Forbidden City. I take a long sip of my water because let's do this.
By the way, that was big firebender energy there, Daniel.
Thank you.
Big firebender energy.
I definitely say I would be like Earth Kingdom. I definitely think I would be like an earthbender. Mostly because I think like metal bending is super cool.
Metal bending
is sick.
Metal bending, and then like the lava bending too, which is
no. I was thinking the other day about lava bending because theoretically speaking, for earthbenders, they can't apply pressure. So if they create lava, they can apply pressure and actually forge a sword from raw lava and still metal bend with it.
Oh, that'd be cool. That's super cool. See, it's the way I thought about it. I was like, oh, it'd be really neat is if Mako and Bolin teamed up and Mako was like superheating stone until it turns to magma, and they were like combining their bending abilities to make this super cool synergy. And I was like, missed opportunity.
I feel like we missed a lot of like element synergies that we could have seen.
Yeah, but hey, we'll see in 2022 when the RPG comes out. That said, let's start with the Forbidden City, page 9. I don't know why. Maybe I'm stalling.
All right, so this is because I have the map up. I'm trying to get a location here. This is in Shoulong?
This is in Shoulong. This is at the located at, let's see if you could find it based on the description. Located at the heart of the imperial capital, the Forbidden City is truly the empire's center. Is it at the center of the Shoulong geography? Within this great compound are the palaces of the emperor and his family, the halls of the government, and the great hall of judgment, where the Son of Heaven sits upon the jade throne and rules the empire. It is surrounded by huge walls, nearly 3 stories high. Even the walls themselves are permeated with passageways and rooms. The central court of the Gate of Heaven can hold nearly 100 horses, while the vast court of the throne can hold an army of 5,000 men. The exclamation point is
that's some punctuation there. Very excited about that.
There needed to be emphasis, apparently.
Yeah, it's strange. The Hall of Judgment can hold 1,000 men upon its vast gold and marble floor, and from its 7 great balconies, it is said the Emperor can observe the distant mountains of Tabet. Guess what Tabet is? Even the halls of government are built upon this titanic scale, standing 4 or more stories each, roofed with red tile and covered with golden carvings depicting the offices of their respective ministries. Designed by the court architect Sum Ma Ling in 868, the Forbidden City combines the finest elements of craftsmanship and feng shui. The doors of the halls of government face north and south. There are 30 buildings of the great concourse of government, propitious number. Each building is a balanced square or a rectangle based upon the golden mean. All windows and doors are circular. Okay. In the moon gate style that promotes the greatest harmony. The entire city is raised above the rest of Kota Lung on a man-made plateau, and all windows face either the Hengsi or the upper Chanlu. What? Feng Shin Su River.
Why is it beach there?
Yeah, it's throwing me off. The Forbidden City is surrounded by the imperial capital of Kota Lung, the kingdom of the virtuous dragon. Kota Lung is a series of concentric walled squares with exactly 4 wards within each square. The innermost square is the Forbidden City. The next contains all of the other halls of government. The next square contains the homes of the nobility and other wealthy people. The 4th square contains the marketplaces. while the fifth contains the inns, wine shops, theaters, and entertainments. Interesting way to put that. The sixth, seventh, and eighth squares contain the living areas of the common people. The eighth wall is the highest of all, topped with a guard wall, and has 4 great gates facing in each direction. The gate to the west is never open at night. The Forbidden City is exactly that, forbidden. Only those of the Emperor's government may enter its walls, and even they may not stay past the hour of dusk. As darkness falls, all of the household guards, maids, and guests of the Emperor must leave the walls of the city, for an outsider to be caught within is death, and not a pleasant one. The Forbidden City is guarded with 1,000 guards, each of 6th level bushi armed with pike, sword, and full armor. The walls are proof against most sorceries and cannot be flown over. A magical screen negates the effects of flight and levitation. Okay, so let's talk about that.
I have so many questions.
Yeah, Agatha, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Why is 30 a propitious number? Like, when has 3 been a
never.
special number?
Yeah.
That's my first question. I looked up, I was like, what is propitious? Because I was like, I just need to be sure what was meant by this. That is a question. And also, I'm really intrigued by the numbers that are being brought up in this section. Like, there's
Like
also
7? Like what's 7?
Yeah.
Why not 8?
I was like,
why not 8?
And it was really interesting that the word that the number 7 is brought up, because that's very like Judeo-Christian, like in the Bible, all the things that are for emphasis, things are usually put in 7s, right? But that's not an Asian thing. Or
Yeah.
Seems to be a lot of the world building where they'll give it the veneer of Asian construction, but they'll call back to a lot of meaningful things to the Judeo-Christian perspective.
just like Western culture, right?
I mean, it's
the
something we
golden
do. We Americans, I guess I should say, we do a lot with our media where we'll kind of shorthand things. So they're like that's a thing that happens. Like I remember watching a video where they were talking about how, like, in the Disney's Hercules movie, for example, he gets on his knees and prays in the Christian manner, as opposed to doing what a good Greek boy would do, which is like slaughtering a goat to Zeus. So like that is a thing that Americans like to do in our media.
When you said Disney's Hercules, my head, it went to Hercules right away.
I mean, that's the best part of the movie. So, yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, Go to Distance is still very heartfelt every time I hear it.
Oh, it's a great song.
The music is very good.
Very good.
Yes, that is true.
But this isn't Asians watch Disney's Hercules.
Although that would be funny.
That would be funny.
That would be great.
You know what we should do? We should do Asians watch live action Mulan.
No.
Should we?
Why?
I think that was just Twitter for like a month, you know?
That's
Yeah.
true.
Like,
You know,
it's already been done.
I can only bleach my eyes so many times in
The
a year.
cursed movie.
So there's
Yeah.
something I'm noticing here,
Yeah.
and this is bugging me. So they say that from this imperial city, which I finally found on the map, this Kotelong, you can observe the distant Talbot mountains from it, and there are literally 2 settlements and a massive amount of land in between the imperial city and the large mountain range, which is like, I don't have a scale here, but doubt. I mean,
Yeah. So like this description in general makes me wonder, like, did they design this by like drawing it and putting it on the map, or are they just describing without worrying about whether it works or not?
Right.
I have a feeling that it's a bit of both. I think that they kind of they came up with this and they had like a rough outline of the map maybe drawn, and they were like, yeah, you could totally see this.
Yeah.
And then they were like, okay, map person, go make the map. And that's why there's this disconnect. I think I think there are two things I don't like about this whole Forbidden City thing. The first one is that immediately, well, maybe more than two. First one is, when you say the Forbidden City, you are now very explicit that the show is China. Very specific, right?
Yeah.
Be explicit about that, because the Forbidden City is literally a palace in China, right? Like I've been to the Forbidden City. I know, Emma, you've been to the Forbidden City. Has anyone else? I asked this before, but I forgot. Has anyone else been?
No.
This description here is not the Forbidden City. This description is very much not the Forbidden City. I remember when we went to the Forbidden City thinking, like, somebody could have easily infiltrated this.
Oh yeah.
It is like the walls are not that high. Like, the gatehouses are high. The walls are maybe 1 or 2 stories, but it is not as monolithic as they describe here. And yes, they can put their sort of fantasy spin on this, but when you literally call it the same thing
Yeah.
as a real thing in China, and when you
And
kind
one of the well-known things in China too.
yeah, and you also, they're talking about concentric rings and access, like, there is no doubt that this is supposed to be the Chinese Forbidden City. But they've kind of taken something that is already interesting and feels different compared to the European castles, and they've tried to make it even more exotic. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
Chinese architecture and Chinese imperial architecture has always been about horizontal vastness rather than height. That's like a part of Chinese architectural tradition. It's always about that, and it's always about symmetry. That in itself is exotic enough compared to European castles or even Japanese castles, which are very different from Chinese castles or forts. There are, like, if you go on Wikipedia and search Chinese forts or Chinese castles, you won't find anything. You will very likely find like a handful of things. You might find some castles from China's interaction with Korea, or you might find some forts that are built in mountains. But castles aren't really a thing in China as they are in Europe or as they are in Japan.
Well, I should note, or would like to know, Japanese castles are essentially just extra large houses.
Yeah, and they're tall. They're tall, right?
They're tall, but they're not that big. If you ever go to one, you're like, okay. It's larger than
surprisingly not that
a
big.
normal house.
Yeah.
And what's important is the complex, the fact that it's raised or in a strategic position and surrounded by different platforms and entries and access can be controlled. That's a Japanese castle.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It can burn down just as easily as anything else.
Yeah, and the Forbidden
There are
City.
several examples of that in Japanese history, if I'm not mistaken.
Every time a castle's mentioned, it's probably on fire. So
And I mean, the Forbidden City itself in China has caught fire numerous times as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has caught fire numerous times. But for me, it's like, I think the most egregious parts are they've taken this like already really unique thing. There is nothing like the Forbidden City. And they've done strange things in the writing to try to make it even more fantastical or mystical. But the things that they've done, like saying like all of the staff basically get kicked out.
That's really ridiculous.
That's not how a palace works. Like,
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
Who's gonna empty the emperor's chamber pots?
It's literally like all the guards, all the staff are just like, okay, time to punch out. They're
It's like,
gone.
has anyone
Bye.
actually ever worked? Has anyone ever learned what it's like to be a commoner servant in a palace setting? You are working 24/7.
Yeah.
What's egregious about this, though, is the writers should know better, because the writers would have that knowledge from European society. There's no reason for them to not understand that the same degree of work and constant attention would be required to maintain an imperial household as there would be for even like a ducal palace or whatever.
So I think a counterpoint there is they certainly did know that. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that while knowing that, and while that knowledge is certainly there, like the Forbidden City is very well documented, and you know, we've always said, oh, they don't have access to the internet. Like, they would have had access to a ton of information on the Forbidden City. I think the thing here is that they've purposefully excluded the logistics of actually running a palace to make
Right.
it more
Yeah.
exotic.
And it's like and I think the exoticism is actually really reflected. I agree. It seems like they were just like, oh well, this is not foreign enough. Let's turn the foreign up to 11, and we're not even going to measure the court of the gate of heaven by any metric or imperial standard. We're going to do it with horses. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
wait, so the essential court of heaven can hold nearly 100 horses. What does that mean? Like, are we talking like 98 horses, 99 horses? It's like a horse and then maybe a small Shetland pony. Like, what is the measure? But it's like that, and then like, oh, and hold an army of 5,000 men. It's like, well, that's cool that you mentioned that, and yeah, horses and men in large quantities is always somewhat impressive, I suppose, but that's not really giving us a true idea of how large this is, what scope it is. Again, it's like that weird exoticizing veil of like just exotic. Yeah, I'm sorry, words, flames.
Yeah, well, it's
Got
it's
it.
the exoticism, but it's also that patronizing exoticism where it's
Yeah.
like, we are making
We
you
measure-
exotic by making you idiots.
Yeah,
Which,
we
you know,
measure things
thanks.
in
Thanks for
nearly
that.
horses. That's how we measure things in the Forbidden City.
Also, like,
nearly horses.
they definitely weren't thinking about this, but like at whatever fantasy pastime this is placed in, horses would have been pretty small.
Yeah.
I was like, in my head, I was like, wait, when is Emma gonna say something about horses to
I
correct
know.
this?
I was so
You talk
excited
about
too.
horses, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Definitely at least get the impression that these guys have never actually visited the Forbidden City. Like, I think that's probably a pretty safe assumption.
This, yeah, it wasn't
Have they
based on
met
the
a
real
horse?
place.
have they ridden a horse?
Have they met a horse?
I don't think they've
Like,
even
no,
ridden a
have they
horse
met-
because even that would have been like,
Yeah.
Honestly, like the Forbidden City, like having been there, this is actually my background is a photo I took at the Forbidden City.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Oh.
I think like when you enter the Forbidden City, immediately it's like this place is so vast, I can get lost in here so easily. Like despite it being symmetrical, it's you feel lost there, and it's really cool. And they don't need to add like, oh, the walls have passages inside of them. Like the walls are fairly skinny, and everything like that. It's
plus from like a logistical standpoint anyways, when you have multiple rings of rings built in, you have to have access to other passages, because it's both it's a tactical advantage and also it's a logistical thing. It's
Right.
like you can't just force everyone to take like 30 extra minutes to go around a wall instead of just going through it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's also the idea that like, oh yeah, the Forbidden City. This is like, it's like the city from Attack on Titan. You know, I don't know a lot about Attack on Titan, so don't blame me. Don't blame me about this. But like, it's like, oh, this is the last bastion of the Shou Lung, and they don't have military control over their vast, land holdings. And it's the same thing goes with like the Forbidden City in real life. Like the Forbidden City wasn't even occupied for that long. It was only 2 dynasties. The capital of China has moved around so many times, but like they control the land all around it. So it wasn't built like a fortress. It wasn't built to withstand siege, right?
Yeah.
Because they never thought it would be besieged because of their control.
Oh, I think
over the
Monty
land.
makes a really good point here, because I actually have seen this movie, the last Emperor movie, which was out in '87.
Ooh,
in
the
chat,
one that
which did feature the Forbidden City prominently within its construction. I haven't seen this movie since I was 14 when I saw it, so it's been
Oh, it's about
like
Puyi.
20 years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, the movie was about Puyi, and it did depict kind of the fall of the dynastic Chinese, and the rise of the Maoist.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could be what they were kind of basing it off of, is this movie. It would fit with the timeline.
It would.
It would. It's possible. One of the things that I would have, if I were to write this, then captured, if they were trying to do that, was like a part of Puyi's loss of power was that Puyi was exiled to the Forbidden City and was only allowed to be in certain areas of it. So I would have tried to capture the loneliness of the Forbidden City. Right?
I think that was a part of what that story was about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you know how Puyi's life at the end of his reign was sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was functionally a figurehead of the Dowager Empress, if memory serves.
Correct.
So,
yeah. And I just they didn't put that there, and this is just a lot of, it's written in the same style as every other section of this book, and it's just like they're just gonna blast you with nonsensical information, and then they're going to interrupt their flow with D&D mechanics, because it's literally like, here's this, and then it's guarded by 1,000 6th level Bushi.
Who don't get kicked out. They're the group that don't empty out of the city at night.
Yeah. And it's like,
Makes sense.
oh yeah, because and then it's like, oh yeah, and then we're gonna limit storytelling by saying the walls are magic proof. And
you just can't do it, yeah.
and you can't fly or levitate over it because it dispels those magics. It's just like that's just how you, like, that's game design 101. You're just like taking your reader out of the narrative right there.
Yeah.
I still can't get over the fact that it still uses the term Bushi for what is clearly China.
Yeah.
I give them a pass at that only because they have to work within their existing poor framework.
I read ahead though. They have alternate terms. A few pages. I think our aspirational goal, we would get to it. They have alternate terms, which they probably should have been introducing earlier, since they seem to apply to this region.
Oh, that's the trend for the entire thing. Literally, the whole bureaucracy episode was like, oh, this is really bad, and then they end it with like, oh, here's how to do it. So,
Yep.
Okay, well,
the only other thing that caught me here, and like this might be related to in-world stuff that I just don't know, and maybe it doesn't matter, but the whole idea that the city is permanently closed to the west. The west gate is never opened.
Yeah.
Interesting choices.
That was an odd like nod, and I was like,
I was curious about that.
Cheek.
Yeah.
The west gate leads to those two other cities in that mountain range you can ostensibly see. Like there are territories to the west of the city within the Shou Empire, which one would assume one wants to have supplies and trade coming from. But screw you guys, you're from the west. That's bad, apparently.
Yeah, well, I think the funniest thing though is like it does say like the gate is to the west is never open at night, and I was like, so why would you? It's like I guess, but most if you were to have like a compound, you would at least keep most of the gates closed at night.
Especially if you kick everyone out and don't want anyone in. Aren't all the gates closed at night?
They just kick them out. They just keep the other 3 gates open. I'm like, why? Why do you do that then?
The test. I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, like, the thing with the Forbidden City is, like, for tourists, like, you can only go in through, like, the south and the north gates. And you can't go at the east and western gates. But it doesn't make sense to close the one gate. That is the one that gives you access to the other places in Shou. It's kind of silly. I think they also treat the idea of the Forbidden City, at least in the way this is structured, as the entire capital, whereas the real Forbidden City was its own city within a city.
Right.
There certainly was, but yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, about like the where it says the commoners are present, and I was like, but this is like, if it's the Forbidden City, that's like the actual compound where the royal family.
Like you can have like royal servants, and those are the designated people there, and that's it. And then the surrounding area. I don't think they understood that the Forbidden City is a city inside of a larger city
that had walls. The other
had walls.
Well, that does actually seem to be what they're going for, because this Forbidden City is inside of the imperial capital, and they describe how like there's the main compound, and then
then-
surrounding it is this larger imperial city, which they mention, you know, like the markets and all of that. So that does
Okay,
seem
so
to be the
I
case.
misunderstood.
So
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
what they
that's
should have
fair.
done to revise this was Forbidden City should have been a section that would have followed a talk about the main city. They should have named the main city, right? And then they should have talked about how to all of its rings, and then that section should have ended with, at the core of insert name of city is the Forbidden City.
Forbidden
And then
City.
you go to
Right.
this section.
The Imperial compound or something
right.
that
Or
isn't a
anything else you
real
wanna call
place.
it.
Yeah.
You could have said it like the inaccessible capital.
Right.
And now I'm trying to
just
find out
poorly-
where
I
they
think-
go into this city, because like
So-
you would think that
yeah.
Koh Lung would be a big.
But Koh Lung, I think, is the it's literally the kingdom of the virtuous dragon. So it is, the Koh Lung is a geopolitical region rather than like an actual location.
okay.
But when they just looking at its the Forbidden City is surrounded by the imperial capital of Koh Lung. That tells me that the name of the imperial capital, the city that surrounds the Forbidden Palace, whatever, is Koh Lung, the city. But I don't see
that should. I think the issue is this should have all have been belonging to the places of interest.
Yeah.
Koh Long was the main category, and then, like as Daniel said, the imperial compound is its own subheader in under that category, because this is put in a place that's so far removed from everywhere else, from both context and purpose, that it feels like you don't know why we're lost as why is this here, and why is this put here above where the places of interest would matter? Because government and politics, yeah, sure, it's the seat of power, but that could have all fit in places of interest, like this entire section, and then we could have talked about the authority of it in this section, and that's fine.
Yeah, because I think the way I see it is like Koh Lung is supposed to be China, right? And then they have the Forbidden City, but the name of the capital of China is not the Forbidden City.
Okay.
But that's what they're kind of saying here. They're saying the capital of Koh Lung is the Forbidden City, and then the imperial capital, which is the Forbidden City, is this place with all of these rings. And I think it's this isn't an example of like bad writing. Oh, it's not an example of like racism or anything like that. This is just bad writing and poor research.
Or it's
or
just
structure as well.
Or
It's
structure,
because
yeah.
it's put
Yeah.
it's also put in such a weird place. Like, I don't know why this is here when most of this is lore detail, and this should have been in the places of interest.
Yeah.
Which is already extremely sparse. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and separated from the regional information.
Yeah.
The like in terms of a larger lesson here, I guess, is especially if it's from a particular country or culture, like maybe avoid using real names and terms, because clearly we can't separate. So coming into this, looking at and seeing Forbidden City, we've been talking so long because we're now comparing it to the real Forbidden City, and it's kind of just something you can't stop yourself from doing.
yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
unless you're going to directly reference it and do it right,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
make up different names. I think I said this in the L5R stuff all the time too. It's like, as soon as you call something a samurai, I'm going to be thinking about all of the things I already know, and where it doesn't match is going to be a problem for me.
Yeah. And that's the same. Like, we've been to the Forbidden City. We're like, nope, this doesn't track.
Yeah.
There's also like the thing where they're saying like, oh, it's guarded against magic. Literally, with like the most basic tools, you could infiltrate the Forbidden City. Like, you could scale the wall, no problem, and get in there, and they would not notice you. Especially if, honestly, 1,000 guards is just not it's not a lot for what the Forbidden City actually is. And yeah, Michelle, apparently you're muted to the stream.
I can't.
Yeah, we
Oh,
can't
I
hear
can't
you.
hear you either. Oh no.
Oh no! Did you turn it off and on again with your?
I saw her do that though. I saw her mute and unmute. She's still silenced.
What?
I
Detach and
hear-
reattach the cord. That's what I did when the mic went haywire.
Yeah. I love the suggestion, the locked palace.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. But calling it like or Ting said the impermissible town.
I like the
Yeah.
impermissible though. I think that's a cool
Inhospitable
word.
location. Yeah.
The impermissible place where the Asians live.
Jesus, no.
So okay, so Michelle's just gonna try to fix audio. Michelle, just don't leave the Zoom call because it's gonna mess with the overlay.
The precious overlay.
The precious overlay.
The precious overlay.
But I think if you like change your Zoom input and output or stuff like that, we'll figure it out. That said, let's go while Michelle sorts out the tech stuff. And Michelle, I think if you do need to leave the Zoom call, the audience will understand.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. All right.
Yay!
Yes.
Once again, we have triumphed over technology.
Take that.
Take
technology.
that.
Take that technology.
Take that. What I meant to say was, God. Okay, what was it I was trying to say? I also feel like to kind of point towards Emma's point, where if you're going to name something after something real, and other folks don't have the same kind of context and knowledge that we have about the Forbidden City or about samurai or about Bushi, then I think it leads to, unfortunately, a lot of really awkward misunderstandings and just misunderstandings about what this is. Like, obviously, hopefully people won't really think that this is the actual Forbidden City situation. However, we've seen this again in like other representations in media. People will unfortunately use these as like shorthand stereotypes. And so it's just, I don't think that this is a really egregious example, but I think it lends itself towards that trend as it's.
Yeah.
Right.
And it also like very much situates there. If this was one Chinese time period, this is the Ming and Qing dynasties. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's got to be those. Right?
It has to be with the Forbidden Palace.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, let's keep moving on to let's move on to emblems of authority. So the emblems of authority are the symbols of the legitimate ruler of the empire. They have been handed down to the emperor. They have been handed down from emperor to emperor since the legendary days of the Nine Travelers, with only one break in succession during the ill-omened Black Cycle from 976 to 1025. There are 9 emblems, each a gold and jade symbol mounted on a golden chain. Each represents one of the 9 gifts of the path, a crystal and jade ball, with an eternal flame within, fire. A jade hammer, the forge. Michelle, I can see you just like a golden.
No, I'm just like eternal flame. Just close your eyes. Let me bequeath this thing to you, new emperor.
A golden plow, agriculture. A jade horse. Okay, a jade horse, a golden wheel, a golden pen, writing, a jade pen.
Two pens.
Two pens. She's like, I got all this like imperial bling, and 2 of them are pens. A golden mask, poetry and drama, and a jade and gold a lute.
A lute?
Oh my
A
god.
lute?
Okay, let's finish this section first, and then we'll let it all out. The emblems are actually quite small. The largest is about the size of a palm.
That's freaking huge.
That's huge. Oh, sorry.
This is big.
Okay, but the size of a palm. Each represents 1/10 of the authority of the emperor. When gathered together, the remaining 10% is incarnated in the physical person of the Son of Heaven himself.
So they're Captain Planet? Like, what is that?
Or it's like, it's like
I
the
know
Voltron
this.
of heaven.
It's like
Yo.
the Voltron of heaven. Yes.
This is
Yeah, the Voltron.
Sorry, Agatha.
this is
Agatha?
Dragon Ball.
Yes, it's Dragon Ball. Oh my
This is
god.
Dragon Ball.
Wait. When did Akira Toriyama first publish Dragon Ball?
A long time ago. One sec.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's compare the times between
But this is also like a Pandora charm bracelet but
It
like
is.
Really
a
is.
necklace.
It is.
The
I cannot
original
also-
Dragon
It's
Ball
a really
ran
bad-
from
It's a really
86
large
to
and
89.
grotesque Pandora bracelet / necklace.
I cannot handle the mask as like drama and poetry. I don't like
That's-
all
that's
these
the-
like Greco-Roman references,
Yeah.
like before
Yeah,
with the
these-
golden
that's a
mean,
very-
and now with the drama mask. Like freaking, is it smiling and frowning? Like what's
Yeah.
happened in this?
It's
this
a
world?
Phantom of the Opera mask. It's just
Yeah.
a half.
Okay, so let's keep going. Let's keep going because we still got one paragraph.
Oh, sorry.
In legend, the possession of the authorities gives the emperor the power to call upon heaven to accomplish his will. This is treated as a limited wish spell with a 90% chance success if all 9 emblems are present, and dropping 10% for each one missing. The wearer,
Dragon Balls.
It
the,
is Dragon Ball.
It's Dragon Ball.
I will say Dragon Ball, while it was released in 86, it didn't come to the US until 96.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
The-
Yeah,
okay.
that's accurate.
It's still hilarious. The wearer must be of good / lawful or neutral / neutral. It said neutral / neutral alignment.
I guess they're referring to like true neutral. So it's either your lawful good or your true neutral, which is like a really
You should've just-
limited
You should've-
Oh,
they
I
should've-
see.
I think it would have been lawful neutral.
They
yeah.
literally should have just said of neutral varieties alignment.
or non-evil.
Or
I would have accepted
non-evil?
non-evil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just non-evil would have been fine.
That's not historically
Yeah.
accurate.
Chaotic is
Get that?
included as well, so
No.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Here we go. All others will instantly be killed by the wrath of heaven. Okay, so
I appreciate that it's just an alignment check and not a bloodline check, though. Like that's nice.
that's nice. That's nice.
Could you imagine though a campaign where like this evil character comes into the room and then the emperor's just like "Hwah!" and like throws the necklace over the
Yeets
cup.
the necklace.
He just
Wish,
yeets the
yeah.
necklace.
yeah.
Insta kill.
Yeah. But also, if everything's like palm sized, imagine all of these things.
It's just like
Like how?
Do you have to be holding them to make them work, or do they just have
Just
to
like-
be near you? Like,
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Now the question should be whether or not these should be put into a piece of armor like Common Rider, where like some of the Common Rider ones where it's like you have the emblems of all the other past riders, and
Yeah.
you do the crossover the crossover arc ones, where it's just like
Shing,
I have all the emblems all together, and you're just
Yeah.
like, oh no.
I guess this does set up like an adventure for collecting things,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
but
That's
also
fun.
like let's look at what these things are.
Why would
The
you?
loot.
okay.
Yeah.
Loot.
Okay, so do y'all? So this is so the emblems of authority are actually based on the 12 imperial symbols. So there are imperial symbols.
Yes.
And so they are the sun, the moon, the constellations, the mountains, a pair of dragons, birds, ritual cups, water weeds, millet, fire, an axe, and the symmetrical foo symbol.
So
Mm.
I feel
So
like
it-
they actually made this less exotic, if you will, with what they came up with.
Wait, what's the symmetrical foo symbol?
I'm not sure. I don't know about that one. This is from the Met.
I
I
just kind
like
of feel
that
like this
millet.
wasn't based on that.
I mean, I kind of feel like they looked at the list and they're just like, oh, millet. Nah, my bird eats that.
I'm trying
Like,
to-
we gotta replace this.
Yeah, and then the bird is usually like it's obviously usually a pheasant, which is the feng huang,
Right.
the phoenix, which isn't actually a phoenix. I'm trying to look for the symbol. So there are various sources. It's usually like constellations, like star, sun, moon, mountains, dragon, pheasant, cups, fire, rice grains, an axe, and then here, Agatha, I think it's supposed to be. I'm gonna throw it in our Zoom chat. It's supposed to be that.
Yeah, link it to me.
Oh, that
Oh.
one. Yes.
Yeah, it's supposed to be that one.
Yeah.
I don't think like if this was actually based on the real world version, I don't think they would have been like, you know what, we should not make this so obviously Chinese. Like I don't think they would do that because sun, moon, and all of these other things you're listing seem perfectly fine for what they would want to be doing. So I think this is more of a general like symbols of heaven kind of thing.
But also when you see these symbols on Chinese emperors, it's not in the form of this like outrageous bling. It's usually on their clothing.
Yeah, this is making me
like
think
sewn
of
on, like
Yeah, it's literally like the
Yeah,
it's like
motifs.
embroidered.
Yeah.
It's embroidered. Yeah.
right.
this is
Yeah.
making me think of the like European mayors and things that wear all of those like
Yeah.
plaques.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
It's
what it's
sort
making
of-
me think of.
Yeah, those like
Oh.
robes or big necklace things that have like it's almost like
And
It's like
those
a
are
chain of
usually symbols of
office.
authority. Yeah, because they do
Yeah.
carry like chains and emblems of office, and I think
Yeah.
they're trying to do that version of it as well.
Well, it
That-
doesn't
that
say in
sounds
here
more
that
plausible, I'd
it's
say.
as
Yeah.
jewelry, though. It just says that these are things that need to be present. Right.
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then they take you out of it by saying like each gives you a 10% chance to use this limited wish ability.
And
Yeah.
also a lute.
Yeah.
And a loot, like
A lute.
As opposed to like a pipa or something.
yeah.
Because
Yeah,
this is still D&D, so there's only European instruments. There are no other instruments that
Yeah.
exist.
Also, it bothers me that it's like, oh, it's a pen. It's a
10 times
brush.
2.
It's a
Oh
brush.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
It's a
right.
brush.
It's a brush.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
Tiggy
just
brought
really
that up
bothered
in
by the
chat.
fact that the jade horse and golden wheel were excluded from the symbolism.
Yeah, they didn't.
Explanation?
They didn't
Yeah,
get-
they're like,
they
oh,
didn't have
you
an
know.
office. Like they didn't have a degree of like what office they belong to. They're just like left out.
Yeah, I know.
I have
yeah.
a feeling that that's a typo. That's got to be a typo.
That might have been a clerical error from the editor.
Clerical error. Oh.
Also, like a jade hammer.
There's a lot of jade going on.
Yeah,
There
jade
was
and
the
gold.
giant jade throne.
hammer.
I'm still thinking about that. Like,
Yeah. Also, the Chinese throne was never jade.
Well, yeah, because
No.
how
That'd
are
be
you gonna
so
get a,
uncomfortable.
That
how
is-
are you gonna get a piece of jade that big?
That got
Yeah.
ported over to L5R is the thing. L5R has the jade or the emerald throne. I think it's the jade throne. And then they later have like the steel throne when the Nazi emperor comes in. But like this has been a thing that is ongoing, I think even today in the L5R lore, that the emperor just sits on a giant hunk of jade.
I mean,
As
to
you
be
do.
fair, I feel like if it was physically possible, like definitely historical Chinese emperors would have been like, "Give me that jade throne."
Yeah,
like, you
yeah.
know what I mean?
That-
If they could do
yeah.
it.
Like the limitation is not like in terms of ideas, but in terms of execution.
But like I would love for them to have other symbols. Like I don't like that
Yeah.
it's like a necklace with all of these huge amulets. I don't like
Right.
like they're that's like 9 palms. Like how do you wear that? That like covers most of your body. You know, we're just
Yeah, like there's a lot. That's what I was saying. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like you almost have to have them either etched to armor or etched to something bigger
Right.
just to fit it.
could have said they're
If
like
it's fitted on a chain, though, I bet the emperor's neck muscles are very strong.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why it immediately kills anyone who's chaotic or evil. Their neck is just too weak. Their neck is too weak. It just snaps it.
See, I feel like if it was heavy and it was based on your neck muscles, then they would be like, well, like you have to pass it on if you can no longer physically carry it.
You have to literally make the strength check just to physically
Yeah.
pass it on.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
check for like imperial neck.
Every morning, the
that's all-
emperor has to make a
maybe-
strength roll.
Wait. That probably explains why the emperor never leaves their throne and just sits there all the time because the necklace is so.
They're over there
weighted
encumbered.
down.
They can't
It's like,
move.
ah.
Encumbered.
So
encumbrance.
one thing that I also think they really, missed out on is a really cool object that would sit with the emperor, and it's the Ruyi.
Yeah.
Like when we were at the Forbidden City, or when you've ever seen a museum exhibition of the Forbidden City, the Ruyi was just like a Chinese ornamental scepter. Is a very, very culturally important part of imperial rule, but and Chinese nobility in general, right? And this is a huge missed opportunity to have this really unique scepter and an art asset of that scepter, which would be culturally relevant, but also unique enough to be like, oh shit, that looks totally different from anything we could think of in Europe.
Right.
And I'll throw that in the chat for everyone to look up. Just search that in in like on Google Images, and you'll be like, oh shit, that looks super cool. They look super different, and you can really make elaborate designs on them. I think they're super neat. That said, let's keep moving because we got making good progress. We're on the Jade Throne, and so this answers a lot of the questions in the chat. It was like, is the Jade Throne actually made of jade? And the Jade Throne, which is the hereditary seat of the emperors of Shou, is a massive chair standing 20 feet high and carved from a single 20-ton block of jade. Engraved upon its surfaces are tiny scenes from the reigns of each emperor. Much of the surface still remains uncarved, awaiting future generations. Legend has it that when the Jade Throne is entirely carved, the empire will come to an end.
So it's 20 tons. How big is this chair?
It's 20 feet.
It says
It's 20 feet tall.
high.
20 feet by 20 feet, 20 feet high. Oh, right. So how tiny are these scenes, I wonder?
And also, that would make the emperor always look tiny while sitting on it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well, that's why they've got the necklace.
Oh, right.
Okay, well, the throne that is in the Forbidden City is also large, but it is not 20 feet high. I think the big thing here is like this little thing at the end where they're like, legend has it that when the Jade Throne is entirely carved, the empire will come to an end. If I was the emperor, I'd be like, yo, put my stories somewhere else. Don't put them on this throne. Like,
Yeah,
That's
you know what?
true.
Carve that piece of wood out there. Don't carve this at all.
yeah, or like, yo, minister of propaganda who has like 20 other jobs. Put this legend out there.
Yeah.
That
In your
poor
spare time,
overworked-
go do stuff.
Yeah, in your spare time.
Yes.
So I don't know. The Jade Throne is silly, and I saw a comment in our chat was also like, Nike was like, "Would you slide off a Jade Throne if it was just all polished stone?" You whoop.
Maybe there's a groove for your butt
Well,
to kind
maybe
of
maybe the
Imperial
carvings.
butt groove.
Well, maybe the carvings are also on the seat. So like maybe the
that's
carvings
so
are like they
uncomfy.
add a little bit of like.
But why would you
friction.
want
So-
to why would you want to sit on legends about your bloodline?
Oh yeah, that's Grandpappy executing
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah.
Well,
Just gonna
obviously
sit
the
on it.
legends that are carved where you sit are from the emperors people didn't like.
But
Yeah.
but the thing is, I think they're carved during the reign of that emperor.
No,
So
it
which
doesn't say that. It doesn't clarify that actually.
I would
Oh,
assume it's
okay.
after, but you know.
We
how
just put the
much?
ones we don't like on the seat.
yeah, so-
According to sources, it doesn't clarify that point.
Yeah, how much of the record is there? Because the one example I know of for carving in like the life and career of rulers is coming from the Maya.
Oh,
And they had entire
Mhm.
temples that were dedicated to one person where every part of that building was carved with their achievements. So like
This
do we say
empire
in
too,
here?
as presented, is like at least 1,000 years old, isn't it?
yeah,
I'm
it's
trying to
very
remember
very
from
very
the-
tiny carvings.
These
Yeah.
are
Just like
very
one little
small.
Tiny.
They're so
Yeah.
small.
So small, so small. I feel like
They
it's
say
just like-
scenes plural, so I mean that it has to be at least 2 scenes per emperor, and
So
like,
each emperor, when they're like dying, you're like, you get 2 scenes.
which
yeah.
excuse
We're
me,
putting it over here.
your highness, and they're just like lying there. Which 2 scenes would you like?
Yeah.
This necklace is so heavy.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's like my next of kin, take this necklace so I may speak my words.
Or it's just gonna be like, just carve me with strong traps.
Just a record of their maximum bench weight. Like
Oh my god.
it's literally how many emblems can you bench press?
I think it's well, I feel like Steve's gonna be in the chat being like, would it be bench press or I feel like it'd
Yeah,
be
what
squat.
kind-
Well, like, are you
squats?
squatting?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I think you're squatting.
yeah.
We'll get Steve to confirm. What
Yeah.
exercise?
So like one emblem hangs in the middle,
Yeah,
all 4
that's-
hang on either side, and you're like, all right, let's squat this.
What if you
That's
could
how-
do
that's how they,
pull-ups
like-
with it on?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
So that's how the
Greatest of
emperor
all
is able to stay on the
emperors,
chair. They have like strong like glutes and thighs. Like they're just clenching onto the throne.
well, like the current emperor is what, a 10th level samurai or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like he's probably in
Part
pretty good
Henge,
shape
okay.
then if he's like level 10.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
those
this is
glutes.
and this is like AD&D terms. So yeah, it would probably be like they would need to have at least like 18 strength to just be competent.
Okay, so speaking of competence, let's move on to the provinces of Shou.
I
Because
do have
Emma, go
one more
ahead.
thing that probably should have been added to like the emblems of authority. But I've seen this come up before for things that are based in Japan because there are like real world symbols of the imperial line in Japan. There are 3 known objects that are supposedly passed down from the gods. And I should say for some of this stuff, if you want to use real world examples, look into current politics of them as well. Because in Japan, symbols of the imperial line are tightly tied to like World War II time imperial nationalism. So you have to be careful. Things from the past aren't strictly from the past. They're layered with all of these things. So just before you use symbols like that, look into it.
And Emma, the chat's like, it's the sword, the mirror, and what's the other one?
Sword, mirror, and the jewel.
Right.
Oh yeah.
All right.
So it's a big, it's a
Mhm.
bead, yeah. It's a magatama, which is a comma-shaped bead.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I
are-
remember that from Okami.
Yeah.
From the
Yep.
video game.
I
Me
learned
too.
that from Smite.
Yeah. So Amaterasu is associated with all 3 of these things, and her
Mhm.
children then being the emperors in the imperial line are having these things passed down. So yeah, just I don't know.
5R had a special
Oh.
victory
No, that's-
condition where you gather all 3 of those artifacts.
Yeah.
Oh, I
In the card
played a
game?
dating sim that had those 3 objects,
They
and I
show
never
up
knew
all over the
what
place.
they-
Yeah.
Wait, do you
Oh.
date like the objects? Like
No.
or do you-
I mean, I'm sure there's a game that exists where you date the objects.
There's,
I'm sure.
yeah. What about
Give
was
it time.
was it
Somebody will have made it.
what was it? Boyfriend Dungeon, where you
No, no.
you romance the swords.
No. Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Token
Oh.
Ranbu, is it? The sword boys?
I'm just
I
gonna-
really wanted to play that, but it didn't come out.
I
yeah.
thought
I want to
think-
romance swords.
I think it's out. It's out. Yeah, you can get it. You
No,
can-
there's
As
there's
somebody who's
totally like
roleplay-
a
as someone who's
really
roleplayed
really
sentient
pretty sword
weapons
boy
many
anime.
times, I've romanced several characters. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'll throw it in the chat. There's literally like, oh, I should play this game.
Oh.
Oh.
What's
To the list.
happening?
I'll add this to the
Oh.
list. Oh damn.
I need a Switch first.
Oh, this is also
You
on
really
Steam.
do. The Switch is a great system.
This is also on
Yeah.
Steam. Oh, Valeria is the dagger. Also a painter. Likes travel, high art, and Scotch
Ooh.
whiskey. Dislikes liars and ducks.
Wait. So it
You
did
know,
come out.
valid,
Yeah.
Oh, snap. Yo,
valid,
I gotta
but-
play this. Let's play it on stream.
We should.
Does
Ooh.
my sword need that many abs?
Yes.
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 Yeah, what?
Is like-
Michelle, what kind of question is that?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
See, this is what I thought you guys were talking about when you were talking about sword boys. I went ahead and put that one in our chat as well.
There are multiple sword people that you could date, apparently.
Oh yeah.
I've
seen that in passing.
the
Oh.
Kankoli for her.
Oh, I don't know about this. There's an
I don't know that
anime?
one either. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm also gonna go like, are we surprised?
Yeah, no, we're not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on from swords having abs. As much as we want to focus on that.
Okay,
Um,
the provinces.
Provinces. So here's the first sentence is just like what?
The first sentence, yeah.
Before there was an empire, Shoulong was many smaller states, waiting to be merged into greatness by the hand of
Oh.
a single emperor.
Hold on.
let's get through it.
Yeah.
Under this great government, certain standards were established so that trade and commerce were regulated, banditry eliminated, and proper knowledge spread to all corners of the land. Here, then, are facts concerning all provinces of the empire.
Oh,
Let's
I
talk-
hate this.
So like here we
hate
go.
it.
We're gonna do a colonialism now. Like
Yeah, we're getting into an imperial colonialism now. Like,
Well,
Here we go.
imperialist propaganda.
also, yeah, this is totally
Hey.
told from top down.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and Agatha, because I know Austin's has seen all of this series, but Agatha, this book, like the Kara-Tur, the campaign setting book, is written by an Asian character for a white character. That's the narrative that this book is.
Or
And
Elminster specifically.
Elminster
I think
Specifically
like
for
that needs to be
Elminster.
said because Elminster is a whole thing.
Yeah.
But also
Yes.
it's this like dragon, this
Yeah.
all-seeing, all-knowing dragon writing this for Elminster.
Dragon Ball. Sorry.
Yeah.
Rock the dragon.
Yeah.
Oh god.
A dragon that lives in a magical castle that can land wherever it wants.
What?
Yeah, and but also say no to everybody and get the heck off my lawn.
Yeah.
Unless they feel like playing around a little.
This is all
He's an all-knowing
and maybe I'll
dragon, but
reward
his,
you.
His talent for writing leaves much to be desired, I must say.
and Agatha, these aren't jokes. This is the lore.
This is real lore.
Yeah.
This is IRL. Yeah.
Yeah. There was
Yeah.
one section where the narrator was like, no one knows what's in there except me, so here's what's in there. It's like,
Yeah.
Thanks for outing yourself.
So
Yeah.
like again, like I wasn't lying, Agatha, when I said like Kara-Tur is like, this book is jokes. This book is jokes.
Yeah.
So let's keep moving. I'm gonna
Yeah.
push us to get to page 14.
Yeah, I
know,
believe in you.
want to get there.
Let's get it.
Go
Yeah.
producer
do it.
Daniel.
Okay,
Right.
so let's do governance. Governance. We'll do imperial censors, and then when we go into the land, let's kind of like skim. If y'all want to like read ahead, we could do that. Because I know we're gonna have talks about the plane of the horse.
Yeah.
Well,
And
there's one
how
that's-
they're
there's,
being-
there's also the land that views Wa.
Yeah. So let's get there. Let's get there.
Okay,
So-
go.
Okay.
Okay.
Each province is defined by the will. No. Each province is defined by the will of the emperor as to its boundaries, taxes, and responsibilities. In this, the emperor's will is maintained by the vigilance of the bureaucracy and its agents, the governors of each province. Makes total sense. Below each emperor are the magistrates. We know about them now. In charge of maintaining the order of each city or village. Most towns of more than 1,000 people have a magistrate. If the town is smaller, it is under the control of the magistrate in the nearest large town. The magistrate is the law of the town. He is responsible for high and low justice, settling disputes, and maintaining order. He has command of a small group of bailiffs or guards whose duty is to patrol the town and adjacent roads, keeping the peace and arresting criminals. Pretty standard D&D writing.
Yeah.
Imperial censors. Of course, even in such an enlightened system, there occasionally arise venal and corrupt officials. But long ago, the emperor demonstrated his profound wisdom by establishing the imperial censors. This department, part of the Ministry of State Security, sends its agents out secretly to all the provinces. These men investigate reports of corruption, graft, incompetence, and treason. No one, save the emperor, is above their suspicion. The censors often pose as other officials and never reveal their true posts until they are ready to make an arrest. No one, save the highest officials, knows who or how many censors working for the government. It is not unknown for the emperor to secretly appoint censors unknown even to the Department of Imperial Censors.
Is this a shot at the Maoist government?
I think
feels
so.
like it is.
I think
Feels
so.
like it.
I think so. It's like I think they really did themselves a disservice when they basically said the emperor has the ability to use the limited wish spell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this is like, okay, so there's a system of governance. They have, different levels of bureaucracy, which is certainly like a characteristic of China, past and present, right? And then the emperor has spies, and the spies go out and keep everyone in check. But who keeps the spies in check? Well, there are spies within the spy system.
Oh, right.
And that's basically what they said here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just like they could have been a little bit more creative. I think, I think they should have said, well, how do the magistrates owe fealty to the emperor? The emperor appoints them, but how does he keep them under wraps? Why isn't there a rebellion? How does the emperor quell rebellion? And it's not through spies. The emperor could basically gain favor. Because I think one of the things that they should have, since this is China, they should have done a lot of research into how Chinese people negotiate social relationships, right? The concept of face, the concept of gift giving and reciprocity in China, and the concept of cultivating informal or formal indebtedness.
Yes. Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is a huge missed opportunity here, because what they could have done was say, the emperor has these vast resources. It's very clear that the emperor is like hella rich, right?
Yeah.
Scrooge McDuck rich, except it's instead of a vault full of gold coins, it's a vault full of jade thrones, and the emperor is swimming in it, right? But like, what if they said, like, an easy fix would have been like, look, the emperor pays all of them, hosts annual massive banquets, right, at the Forbidden City, or allows
Ooh.
these people to visit the Forbidden City after dark for these, like, soirees, right? Like, and the emperor basically, like, doesn't ask anything in return. But these people feel like they owe the emperor something, and that's why they work for the emperor.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a culture of reciprocity and
Exactly.
building relationships as opposed to fear. This is
Right.
just complete paranoia, complete fear. This is, yeah, I mean, I know that Maoism has been referenced, but I'm thinking of like during the McCarthyism and like
Mhm.
the secret. This is a very like this is not
This is
something
still very
that
Cold
feels-
War-esque. Like, there's still that
Yeah.
element of the Cold War. I mean, granted, it is right up until the end of the Cold War when this was written, so it's like it's still around. It's still lingering.
I do feel like it is an
paranoia.
ultimate disservice to the world building, though, that they're trying to blend this idea of ancient imperial China with a lot of prejudices of the Cold War era and the Western impressions of the Maoist regime. Like, trying to blend the two, it feels wrong.
Well,
Yeah.
I think. Oh, sorry, Michelle.
No, go ahead, Agatha. It's fine. I was just agreeing.
I feel like it even more interesting is to incorporate these things that Daniel you've mentioned with this kind of like there's like the surface level, or like not the surface level, what appears on the surface, which is this kind of like face, like reciprocity, kind of like, oh, I am giving you honor, which it's kind of true, right? Like by giving you face, by like inviting you to these things that recognize your position or like your achievements or whatever, and now you feel indebted to me because of these things, because I'm the emperor, and I'm saying like, oh yeah, as the emperor, I'm saying that you hold power, then you have to give me something back. So that's on the surface. And then also underneath there is the secret control as well. I think that could be interesting too. So it's not necessarily that part has to be thrown away, because that also existed, right? Like
Of course.
historically and stuff.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it would have been so much more interesting if it was a little more culturally relevant in this specific area, instead of just, of course, Jade Thrones, Jade this, Dragon that. Like that would have been sick.
Yeah, so in Chinese culture, like, we're talking about two concepts. We're talking about face, which is something that is like very distinct to Chinese culture, and we're talking about this other concept called guanxi, right? And it's that idea of like unwritten codes of reciprocity that exist in all Chinese social relationships, right? It's like inviting people out for dinner. It's like, oh, I paid for dinner this time, right? Let me get the bill.
Yeah.
And the
The mad dash to pay for the food at
Yeah,
the end of
that
the...
is
and this
yeah,
isn't-
that is literally what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, and
That
that
knows that now you owe them. Like you really
Yeah.
do.
yeah.
hmm
And you don't want to have to owe that. So the next time you try even harder to make sure
Yeah.
that you get a one up on them. But
Yeah.
in this case, the emperor is constantly got a one up on you.
Yeah.
And so you are forever socially indebted to the emperor. So you try to do a good job. You try to maintain your town, your village, and you try to make sure that the emperor looks good. Because if the emperor falls out of favor, you can never repay that social debt you owe the emperor.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
tied into that social debt is also the power imbalance, of course, of like they're the emperor, they also can like your life is also in their hands like at all times. So there is the social thing. Yeah, I love this, Daniel. This is, I've never actually put this into words. Like these are things that I always knew, but I didn't understand how to say it. So that actually makes so much sense.
And this is actually at the core of our Dungeons and Asians adventure, right? So I don't think this is a spoiler or anything. So like core of our Dungeons and Asians adventure is that this massive piece of jade has fallen out of the sky from heaven and is slowly turning the land into jade, right? It's a slow burn. And the Empress wants this taken care of very fast and very secretly, right? The reason is, in historical China, when there have been flood, famine, other natural disasters, these are signs that the mandate of heaven is being shaken and that the gods are literally deciding that like you're not fit to be the ruler anymore. And these are all things that cause the emperor or empress to lose face, right? So in our Dungeons and Asians campaign, it's all about the main characters, the shrimp, the foreigner, and the assassin, all working to ensure that the empress doesn't lose face, right? And they're all doing this.
And that setup in and of itself creates another fun dichotomy because the emperor obviously has that court dynamic, but then the emperor themselves is beholden to the heavens.
Exactly.
And how does the emperor empress in this case, very very good decision there by the way, how does the empress curry favor with the gods or with the heavens?
Exactly.
So it all kind of comes top down with that construction.
And the rules in which you engage with the heavens are also unclear. You have to be good to the people, but you also have to ensure that you are like a firm ruler and you maintain order. So like being the emperor is a stressful thing because you have to A, maintain relationships with people, and B, maintain these informal relationships that you are unsure of how to navigate with heaven. And you are kind of caught in the middle. And that's a really cool thing that you don't see in TTRPGs. You don't see that in D&D. Because just like, I am the king, I have been appointed, and blah, 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 right? You don't see somebody who's caught in the middle of their people and them being the child of heaven. And this isn't even made up. This is Chinese culture. This is Chinese history right there. Like, you don't have to make that shit up. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and
anyway.
That scenario is in other cultures as well. Anytime you have rulership based on divine rights, that exists. So
disaster shakes faith in the divine right of the ruler.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's the nuances of the relationships that are in this network that they fail to do here. And I will give them the benefit of the doubt. The idea of reciprocity in Chinese culture, like guanxi and face, are very likely things that they might not have had access to or have ever heard of in the 80s.
Right, that's true.
So
we have that concept in the West, though, of the you scratch my back, I scratch your back.
But I think
we have that.
The same.
But I think there's a lot of difference in Chinese culture with that, and I think they, and of course, like how you navigate, how you cultivate, reciprocity. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt in that they probably did not know or had access to information like this.
Yeah.
And like like Agatha, you were like, I didn't know how to articulate that until just now.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not a well-known thing. I only know about this because I'm actually writing about it in a TTRPG.
Nice.
Not Avatar. I will say that, not Avatar. It's a different one.
Okay.
I'm not sure when this one's being announced. But yeah. So these are our suggestions on how this could be made better. So let's go to the land, Chukay. And Austin,
I read ahead a little on this, so it made me laugh.
And Austin, I know you've got the map open. So if you, so this area is now a vast wind and drought-swept plain. There we go, drought. With sparse grass and almost no water. It is said that the Chukay Plateau is haunted by the ghosts from the dead imperial capital of Kuomeilan, who scream eternally in the frozen night.
That's what made me laugh. Anytime you tell
Yeah.
me that something's screaming, I assume it's nonstop. So this is just like, this is just the freaking desert, like
I
the
love it, though,
loudest
because-
desert on earth.
Yeah, because it's a mostly windswept plain, right? So it's like you can't tell if it's the wind or the scream or it's the constant screaming.
No, I just imagine like Futurama style. That's just like nonstop high volume screaming.
Yeah.
So like you can hear it in the distance if you're even anywhere in the region. Like you know
That's
where the
beautiful.
shrieking desert is.
So for me, there's some good stuff here. So if you go to history, it's like this is the original province in which the empire began, originally known as Chu Ta Tu, the Great Province. For one full dynasty, the original Shou Empire flourished here. The land was a fertile, open plain in which millet and barley were grown. By the end of the Li dynasty, and again, like Agatha and Austin, there's no context as to what these dynasties look like, and these years don't mean anything. The Nine Immortals, seeing the decadence of the court, decimated the kingdom with drought and fire, forcing the survivors to flee southward. The only part of this I like is that, yes, this is the plateau, and this is supposed to be northern China. This is supposed to be like
Right.
Xi'an. And they're like, they don't eat rice here. They grow millet and barley. And I'm
Yeah.
like, A plus.
Hey.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, they did something right.
They
But
did
also,
something
like,
right.
Yeah.
Archaeology, like we have that whole thing going on too. Like
Yeah. There's literally like, you can't grow rice here because it's all loess. It's all like windblown silt, and it's a very, very shallow growing layer. And you can only grow millet and barley here. And it's like, boom, way to go. That's it. So the people of Chuke are the tallest of the show, slender with high cheekbones. They are the only show who commonly have reddish or brown hair rather than the usual black. In fact, the term for a red-haired person is Chukian. They are somewhat wild in temperament, with a cold anger that reflects their courageous bearing. They are excellent horsemen and swordsmen.
This is Mongolia, right?
This is supposed to be Mongolia, but also the Tocharians.
See, I noticed when I'm looking at the map, the one of the northernmost cities, Kangste or something like that. The way that it's written out, and it's got like an apostrophe between the TE. It looks to me like someone was trying to evoke the idea of Mongolia in the
Right.
construction of the words.
Right.
Yeah, they're these are the Tocharians. So
Mhm.
in China, I'll put this in the put this in the chat for everyone so they can look it up, and I'll throw it in our Zoom chat as well. These are supposed to be the Tocharians. They're from the Tarim Basin, which is basically like northwest China, like the border of China and like the western parts of Asia. These are this is a completely distinct culture. There are also like mummies. I have to look up where they are. But yeah, they're trying to describe a very different people.
I will say I do appreciate that the book does depict the fact that there are within these countries and cultures, and always have been, different kind of ethnic groups with their own traditions that are outside the norm of the kind of the imperial the central imperial groups.
Yeah,
for sure.
these are the
Yeah.
these are the Tarim mummies. I think that's honestly like a really cool thing that they've included in this, and I think it's important that we talk about the good things in this book too. I think the only thing that I would have removed from this is their temperament, because you're basically saying a whole people are wild and are
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
angry. I think, and that's like a thing that D&D has only started to try to fix officially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's so unrealistic, and I understand if they want to say they are perceived this way
Yes.
by the general, like the average person of like the capital. Maybe this is how they're perceived,
Mhm.
but that's something that you can then play in. But saying that they are this is like, okay, well, here are my options. If I'm from this area, I'm angry and cold and wild.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting dichotomy that they draw here too. The wild and temperament kind of gives you the idea of a very, fiery people,
Yeah.
but then the dichotomy of the cold anger.
So they're very passive aggressive.
Right.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
Actually,
no.
so
Extremely passive aggressive Mongol horsemen.
Daniel, when you said Tocharian, I'm just looking it up right now on Wikipedia. So
Yeah.
are you talking about like Xinjiang? But like,
Yes, the Xinjiang mummies. Yeah.
Okay, so historically, yeah, this is also kind of interesting because it is drawing on like there are a lot of Chinese stereotypes, like popular Chinese culture stereotypes about people from Xinjiang is like very similar as well, and it's also very, very problematic. Like, where it's like, yes, they are good with horses, which makes sense. Like they worked with horses more. Emma, I'm sure you would know more about this than I do. And they're also usually portrayed as being passionate, athletic, and quick to anger, and also like this kind of cold. I think in the context of these kind of stereotypes is like they're distant in that they like if you don't got their respect, they're not gonna respect you, like that kind of vibe.
I think they're saying aloof. I think they're trying to say aloof.
Aloof, yeah. And there are a lot of things that are really problematic about the specific stereotypes about Xinjiang. But it's really interesting that is one of the things that this section really has a good idea of.
Yeah, and it's odd because it's like, wow, it's like they did some research. But that's also, like we said, this is those two sentences, the horseman and swordsman, and then their temperament, those two sentences need to go. I think it's really interesting that they're saying that there is a lot of diversity within Shou. And I think, honestly, it's hella progressive.
Yeah.
For something like this. Because, we look at, other Asian settings, and it's just like everyone looks the same.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And it's
L5R runs into that problem. Like, outside of like the unicorn and the crab, everyone's kind of...
And the crane. The crane has white hair.
No, they dye their hair. And
they dye their hair?
We don't care about the crane. The crane
okay, cool.
The only one we care about is the crab. Look, the crab's just preventing everyone from getting that taint. I would like to consider myself an expert on L5R lore, specifically the lore. Specifically
well, we
the lore.
Read the core book.
Specifically the lore of the core book. I will say, like, I would have taken out those two sentences, and I would have taken out the fact that this is like an inhospitable land because people live there.
Yeah.
Like you take those two things away and you say, hey, this is a geographically unique place. They grow different things here, and to outsiders, this might be like, whoa, this is like, it might look inhospitable, but these people are thriving.
Right.
I would have said that, and then when you in your campaign setting, would you say a place is like there are ghosts who go and scream eternally, right? So I had to say scream eternally for the audio listeners. When you say that there's a place and there's like ghosts and it's like dead, the only incentive to visiting there is to raid tombs. And fight monsters.
Right.
But when you say, these people look different, they farm different ingredients, the land, they're thriving, they have knowledge that is outside that of the Forbidden City, you immediately open yourself up to more story options. Right? Mm-hmm. So
looking at the map too, I feel like I gotta point this out just geographically. So this is interesting. Chukay borders a large expanse called the Horse Plains to the west. And the Dragon Wall actually ends pretty much where Chukay begins, allowing an actual road access to this. There's a desert and then the Horse Plains just to the west of it. So it definitely in geographic location evokes the idea of that final frontier where civilization hasn't touched. Yeah,
and also like I'm just going back to the descriptions that are here that are again really accurate about like Chinese stereotypes, or like that have been like the hair color too, and the way that they refer to these people. Hold on.
And I think we should clarify, you're saying Chinese stereotypes of other Chinese people.
Yes, of people from Xinjiang
Yeah.
and like the northwest of China. Sorry, yes, that is what I meant. What is in popular Chinese understanding of of other Chinese people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's an important distinction to make, because on this show we often talk about stereotypes of Chinese people, but people can hold stereotypes of themselves, and
yeah.
and I
Oh,
think,
yes.
yeah, this is
Mhm.
one.
Yeah, and like what they said, like they have like reddish or brown hair, and then like the term for a red-haired person is like Shukian or whatever. That is actually like referencing kind of like a little bit of a slur, I think, in Chinese about like people from the West that actually originated from slurs towards people that are in now Western parts of China. So like the part that's close to Eastern Europe and stuff. So I find that really interesting too.
I find that interesting, but also a little jarring, right? Like we've got this really very strange setting with like the Forbidden City or the not so Forbidden City, as well as a bunch of other stuff, and then we've got this very real world opinion,
especially about especially now because of what's going on with the genocide.
Yes,
in Xinjiang, right? I think what they could have done, and there is no way that the folks who wrote this would have known about that.
Yes,
and
that's true.
There's no way they would have known. Like I guarantee it. But I think what they could have done was said that, hey, this region, Chuke, which is 100% Xinjiang, they should have said this is a hub for trade outside of Shou, right? Since they are on that border of the wall, they have access to materials and information outside, right? They are brokers of material culture, but also knowledge.
They do say that, though. If you look at the cities or places,
they do say that.
They actually say that.
The northernmost city, Kangxie, is a major trade town.
Boom.
Right.
Okay, cool.
There's also a major mining city, and this is bothering me. The mining city is in the middle of the province. It does not connect to the main road.
I agree with that, because that defeats the whole point of having a mining city.
Yeah.
Like, how are
Oh, and then our favorite one, Kuomeilan.
Kuomeilan. Yeah, it's a very strangely disparate description of this place that has fierce people. I guess the general conceit that I guess someone who doesn't know would take away is like, yeah, this place is basically like a deserted, people ride around on horses, and there's just eternal screaming from the monster city. Like that's and then there's a trade, but it just sort of, there's not a lot of interconnectivity, right? Like we're not getting a rich tapestry of like the culture and the people,
the religion
who comprise the religion. There's not like a real beautiful little like microcosm here of Chuke. It's just like
it's very sparse, very brief.
Yeah.
And that does seem to be the case for every province. It's just boiled down into a few paragraphs.
Yeah.
So I mean, like,
which is really saying something, because Chuke, because it is at the border of the Dragon Wall, and is in Austin, you're looking at the map. Is it one of the road leading out? Is it the one that like is it a road that leads further all the way back to like the more?
It goes like west off of the map.
Okay, so yeah, so this would be a place that adventurers coming from like the other side of like the Sword Coast would be coming in and being like, this is the first place you're gonna see.
Not necessarily, I would think, because the Sword Coast, they would come in through sea, if I'm not mistaken. So
but if they came from like places like Thay and other areas of like of the unapproachable east region,
because their road leads north, so it's into this Issacourt or Wu Hai Tai.
Oh, okay.
So that is their northern road, and the road that main road actually goes south into the Shou Empire, connecting eventually to the capital. Like that main road flows through the emperor into the capital, and then there is another westward road. So that could potentially be an entry point, since that western road does circumvent the Dragon Wall. And goes west to the Horse Plains. So if that leads to a port, which I don't see a port on this part of the map, but if seeing kind of where the land starts to terminate, that road ends and there's like a pathway to an oasis where I assume there was probably a city there, even though there's nothing marked. But that would, in theory, be an access to the west if there's like a seaport over there, but it's not shown on this map that I'm looking at. And there is another road through the southern dragon wall and through the mountains. So I'm betting that's probably where Faerun or Abertoral, was it?
Yeah.
Where those people would probably come in, and they would actually come in through the Mai Yuan province, if my read of this map is correct, and that's the next one we've got.
Okay,
on our
I'm
list.
trying to. I found the French map as well, so I'm trying to.
I'll link it in.
Yeah, link
Oh
it.
no, I've
Because-
got the
I
map.
have-
I'm just trying to find where it is.
I have more questions actually, because I'm reading this. I'm reading the description right now, where it says Taoyang maintains a border garrison, blah blah blah, covering the junction of the Guangzhou and the Spice Roads. Okay, cool, that's fine. But before that, it says that there's Kangsta is the major trade town on the Guangzhou road to Koryo. So is that is Koryo like
Koryo's Korea.
Koryo's Korea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
so
so
that
that
would be the
is
northern
exactly
territory. Okay.
the equivalent? Okay,
Yeah.
I was just wondering about that.
They're not subtle about names.
They're not really subtle.
regions.
I mean, like Tabet is Tibet.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not a women's clothing store. Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Not
I'm trying to find this place on the map.
So the map, it's the northern area. There's a mountainous border that goes into like
Yeah,
green country. Yeah.
I'm looking at a mountainous border. I'm looking at Kazari, or am I not far? Oh, I might be. Oh, Chukay, there it is. I see. I'm on the
yeah,
wrong
2K is
side.
like very, very far north, right underneath those mountains.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
underneath
That
the
city in the
mountains.
middle is the mining town that's not connected to any roads. That frustrates me.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
maybe all the roads are underground. They're mining.
That would be
That
cool.
could be
Like,
cool.
That'd
be really
interesting.
cool.
I could
But
dig
the
that.
map
That'd
should
be a
at
cool
least
adventure.
show-
I could also see it where, because it does state that that it is actually close to Koh-Melon, that's the reason why there's no major roads, because they're like, we don't need to go there.
Yeah.
But if
Just
you're
all
mining
the
there,
screaming.
like, you do need to go there because those are
Yeah.
resources that you need.
Yeah.
So there's Chukay. I put it on our on this. I'm just gonna. I was like, why didn't I just put this on the stream?
True. Yeah.
So I put it up on the stream so everyone can see. This is the
Nice.
little mining
Mhm.
town.
Mhm.
But yeah, let's go back and talk about this. So let's go to. Oh, actually, it's 2:00. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
I
we
think
ran
we're
out of time.
kind
Okay,
out of
so
time.
so we got. Damn it! 2 pages only.
Hey,
We
that's
got to
not
double
bad.
digits finally. We reached
We
double
got there.
digits.
Got the double
So
digits.
at the rate of 2 pages per month in this 264 page document we've got here.
I
Yeah.
think
Now
I,
you see how it is this happens.
I think we could definitely get through most of the geography like fairly fast.
Yeah.
I think that Chukay one was just like, whoa, we were not expecting to talk about Xinjiang, and then it just happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
And there were like certainly like I have a lot of mixed feelings. It's like, yeah, you know, it's cool that they're showing sort of like ethnic diversity within Shou, but then it's also
Yes.
like I think they've inadvertently fallen into something that's very Chinese in terms of the stereotypes there.
Yeah, which
It-
I
yeah.
find really interesting.
It
Yeah.
would not
Yeah.
surprise me if they've at least, though some of the writers talked to some Chinese folk who may have passed along some of these prejudices.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And that's why
A lot of-
I don't think they did academic research into this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
This
was
is
the,
80s.
academia at the time particularly
Yeah, the Turin Basin
Charitable?
is something.
Okay.
Yeah, Emma, you were saying?
Oh, just if in the 80s there, it's not like China and East Asia was closed off here. Like they might have been getting a lot of secondhand information if it's like back and forth, particularly with Japan, because like this is the height of like US Japan business interaction. So like I can see them picking up a lot of random information and things, or people are coming to America to go to school and do business and all of that kind of stuff. So
This
like,
is kind of the height of the Japanese economic boom, wasn't it?
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the big bubble.
Yep.
Yeah, the thing that kind of just again, that's what's I think what the reason why it feels so different is probably because I would not be surprised if this was written by someone else completely different, right?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
books are, as we've established, it's usually my cat. Sorry.
Aw.
Never apologize for cats.
He's so cute and he just wants to be around us. But we've established that these books, one, like there was probably not a lot of money put into them, right? So there's probably less incentive to do proper research. But two, I'm guessing that like whoever wrote this section probably had to go talk, like they definitely did talk to someone and they definitely brought in those opinions into this, and that's why it feels so discordant in a lot of ways.
Well,
and again, that's just, I think that's just like maybe just poor logistics handling perhaps on Wazu's part back in the day.
This is TSR. This is TSR.
This is TSR.
Oh,
Yes,
TSR, my bad.
TSR.
Yeah.
I know TSR. I'm trying to remember because there was a point in TSR which kind of led to its downfall, where they, if memory serves, they installed a very like right-wing Christian woman who kind of drove it into the ground.
Yep.
So, but budget-wise, I definitely, just reading this in general and kind of the caliber and quality of what is coming out, this, I agree, this does not feel like a large budget tentpole production.
Well, I remember they got Bawa, which I pulled up on the map. It's literally in the bottom right corner. It's
Yeah, I'm
supposed to be
looking at
their
it.
Southeast Asia. I remember the guy who wrote Bawa was like fresh out of high school or something.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
fresh out of high school, had like put together all of these notes, and then like almost none of it went into the book.
Yep. Because Bawa is really short in the book.
It's
Like it's a
super
really
tiny.
short section.
Yeah.
It's a super tiny section.
So like Austin, I think you're 100% right about, you know, your commentary on the nature of the writing that went into this. Like I like the quality is so inconsistent, and it is so clear that there isn't really a single vision, right? Because everything is so out of order. The structure is just so poor, and I think that's the one thing that's holding us back as we read this. It's like it's hard to get a grasp of what you're looking at here, right? When we're looking at this, I feel like we would have struggled even more if Austin hadn't had the map open.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That was really helpful.
that was very helpful. I'm like, the mining
Yep.
town, what? Oh god.
Like I said, like I'm a logistics guy. Like I have to know that location. Like it's
Yeah.
I have to have that spatial idea of what's going on here.
Apparently, Mary is now the logistics guy.
Can you imagine on the Fellowship? Mary's like, okay, fam, if we're gonna make it to Mordor, we have to take
Flipping out this map.
pulling out the map. We have to take this route. We need this many supplies. Yo, Elrond, I need this much lembas bread. Let's
How much better
Give
would
us
have
something
gone
better
with-
than Limbus, because this is crap.
Have we heard back from the Eagles? No, we haven't heard back from the Eagles
okay,
yet. Oh,
yo,
okay, fine.
okay, yo, Gandalf, I know you got friends with eagles. Bilbo told me. You think you could just fly us over there? And
Has your moth come back yet?
if my math is correct, if we drop the ring from this angle, it will land in the lava. Problem solved. I'm Mary. Logistics.
So many
I'm
things
Mary.
could have gone so
Oh,
much
God.
faster.
Wow.
Look,
This
it's
is
like,
the AU that we need.
Yes. True enough.
you know, our next stream's gonna be let's rewrite Lord of the Rings.
That's right, Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
That said, like, you know, like based on this conversation, I'm so happy. Like I miss Mackenzie, but you know, I'm happy that Mackenzie, Austin, and Agatha, you both have joined us because your insight has been, you know, very unique and has contributed a lot to this conversation. I definitely love. I love how we brought a lot of our real life experiences and our cultural knowledge into this episode. I feel like every single month we get better and better at this. That said, if you want to follow these amazing people, all of their socials are on screen. If you're listening to the audio, all of their socials are going to be in the description. Please follow them. Go to unbreakablerpg.com. Buy Unbreakable Volume 1. Buy Unbreakable Revolution, Unbreakable Volume 2, 3, and what's the other one? Pathways. Buy all 4 Unbreakable books that come out this year. Support Asian creators, right? Support independent publishers like Austin. And pre-order Candlekeep Mysteries at your local. And, like, hire Emma and Agatha as cultural consultants. And, listen to Michelle's MTG podcast.
Thank you.
Like,
we try.
Look, like we're trying here on Asians Represent, and I'm so grateful for all of you who are listening to the audio, watching us live, or watching us on YouTube. It means the world to us, and I'm just happy that we get to have these conversations, because even if nobody was watching or listening, the fact that we're talking about this and the fact that we're sharing our experiences has certainly is enriching for me as a creative and as a designer.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
bless up, y'all.
I'm very happy to be here as well.
Me too. All the time.
This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys having me on, so I can scream about roads.
Why are there no roads?
I love it.
I think the proper thing. I think if you were screaming, I feel like Austin, if you were a ghost in 2K, you'd be eternally screaming about roads. You'd be like, roads.
I was just imagining
Logistics.
all of the screaming ghosts and just Austin there going like, "Why are there no roads?"
Or what if Austin was
really being upset about the fact that these roads are not well kept? For a major vein for an important city,
or
I'd be yelling at the miners like, this could be easier.
What if the yelling was just? What if the yelling is just the ghosts of Kwame-lan yelling at the mining city, being like, "We have been waiting for these roads for so long. Where are they?
We were promised roads. We still have no roads."
Okay, in all seriousness, here's an adventure if you're going to use 2K and this mining town. Which one's the mining town? It's
the one that has no roads.
Is the centrally located city
Kangsa is the one, I think.
That's the one.
No. I think it's
Fukyo. Trade town, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Fukyo. So here's an adventure. You're going to Fukyo, and you encounter ghosts. And there are all of these ghosts of maybe laborers. And one of them stands out. Looks like Austin. One of them stands out. This one
has long hair and a ponytail.
Well, this one was a magistrate of this mining town. And they all died because they couldn't get supplies. There was a big drought. Maybe there's some sort of event. And in order to send these ghosts off to the afterlife, y'all got to build some roads. And the players build a road, and it finally symbolically connects the mining town to the rest of, the literal pathways around Shou. And the ghosts are just like, the ghost of Austin is finally just like, finally, that they vanish.
And the streets.
And if you want obstacles, you have to actually get proper permits to build the roads.
Oh my god!
And so then, does that mean you have to go to the other ghost bureaucrats? And it's just an adventure of role playing and negotiating with ghosts.
And you have to give them gifts.
Yeah, you have to offer.
You have to give them gifts. You have to get like the paper stuff. You gotta burn it.
Yo, Jacky.
Yeah, you gotta burn
also,
paper
you gotta find the old
money.
Documents where the emperor promised funding.
Exactly.
For this.
Oh my god!
Yo, Jacky, this is my
Simulator.
this is my Unbreakable Volume 3 pitch. Do you accept?
I would accept it.
That said, everyone, thank you for tuning in on Twitch, YouTube, or the podcast. We appreciate y'all, and just have a great day.